Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. My name's Janos, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Infinity Train, an animated series on HBO Max from Cartoon Network and creator Janos. Please note that this video will contain some spoilers for seasons 1 and 2, but otherwise will be mostly spoiler-free. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, and if you're coming back, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Now with that out of the way, hop aboard a mysterious train, find yourself an animal companion, and let's get started. Infinity Train is, in my opinion, one of the best and most important shows to come out of Cartoon Network in a long time. It combines a grounded and relatively realistic art style with expertly written dialogue to communicate interesting and compelling themes to its audience, and doesn't shy away from more mature concepts such as divorce or grief. Unlike the vast majority of Cartoon Network series, Infinity Train seeks to tell complete and contained stories in a relatively short amount of time, a feat that it accomplishes through its use of anthology-style seasons, with each one following the adventures of a different protagonist. Additionally, each season is composed of just 10 12-minute episodes, totaling about 2 hours per season. Through this approach, the series is able to communicate ideas and deliver messages in a more effective and direct way than shows that follow a single protagonist through an ever-increasing number of seasons. And while I don't think that series like Adventure Time or Steven Universe suffer because of this format, I do believe that the one utilized by Infinity Train is better suited for conveying themes and teaching lessons. So in this video, I'm going to argue that Infinity Train represents a very important and underrepresented type of animation, and explain why that matters. Infinity Train is set on a gigantic and enigmatic train, whose cars contain a seemingly endless variety of strange and often impossibly vast environments. The train mysteriously appears to people who have unresolved issues they refuse to confront, and entices them to enter its cars. Once on board, the passengers are rendered unconscious, then awaken to find a bizarre glowing number on their hand, and must wander the train in hopes of resolving their innermost problems, reducing their number to 0, and finding their way back home. The train itself is supposedly morally neutral, as its overall goal is to help its passengers grow and better themselves. Though the fact that survival on the train is less than guaranteed, and that passengers are basically kidnapped against their will, places it firmly in the unethical category, in my opinion. However, the morality of the train is not entirely relevant, as I believe it is meant to represent the infinite cycle we trap ourselves in when we refuse to confront our problems, and thus is a physical manifestation of something we already do to ourselves. To further this analogy, let's look at the desolate landscape surrounding the train. When passengers attempt to physically escape the train and wander out into this world, they are unable to move past a certain distance, and after staying outside for too long are confronted by terrifying creatures called gomes, which if given the chance will suck out their souls and kill them. If the train is meant to represent the attempt to resolve one's problems, the barren landscape symbolizes the utter impossibility of running away from them. Sure, you can try, but eventually your issues will catch up to you, and may even end up consuming you entirely. The setting acts as a great metaphor for the importance of facing your inner demons, a lesson that I believe to be especially important for the series' primary audience of kids. Though admittedly, it may be too shrouded in symbolism to reach everyone in that demographic, so let's look at a more direct means of conveying the idea: the story. As I mentioned earlier, Infinity Train follows the adventures of a different protagonist, or sometimes protagonists, in each season. With the main theme of the series being the need to confront your problems, it makes sense that each season highlights a different kind of issue. The first season follows Tulip, a 13-year-old girl struggling to come to terms with her parents' recent divorce, as well as her own distorted and demonized memories surrounding it. From the moment we meet her, it's clear that Tulip is a smart, determined, and headstrong young girl, but it quickly becomes obvious that she's carrying a lot of emotional baggage. Her home in of itself appears to be a source of great discomfort, and a simple question from her friend regarding her parents' divorce is met with anger and defensiveness. After it comes to light that a lack of communication between her parents has culminated in her dad being unable to take her to game design camp, Tulip lashes out and decides to try to make the 300-mile journey by herself on foot. This is where she comes in contact with the train, and we spend the rest of the season following her as she learns about herself, grows as a person, and comes to accept the reality that change is an inevitable part of life. With divorce being something that many kids have to deal with, I think it's really important to portray strong and relatable, but also vulnerable characters like this who are going through it. And even for those who aren't, the idea of change in general is something we all tend to fear. So seeing a character overcome that through confronting her own innermost fears and doubts could be a truly significant message for those who need it. As we move on to Season 2, our focus changes to a girl named MT, a mirror version of Tulip that was introduced in the previous season, and Jesse, a 15-year-old boy who arrived on the train soon after being peer pressured into bullying his younger brother. The two meet each other after both befriending the same magical superpowered deer, Alan Dracula. As they travel the train together, we see MT struggle to discover her own identity and defy the expectations set for her by the reflection world she came from. Reflections like her are supposed to, well, reflect the existence of their prime, or original person, and aren't allowed to have their own lives or personalities. Similarly, we learn that Jesse, who otherwise seems to be a kind and genuine person, is being pushed by his friend group into becoming someone he's not. As the story goes on, we see MT and Jesse develop a deep friendship, overcome adversity, and find themselves along the way. Besides acting as a compelling narrative, this premise serves to highlight the theme of identity present in this season. In one way or another, we all have to reconcile with other people's expectations of us. Whether that be the expectations of our society, parents, or that of our peers, the ideals other people hold us to can play a large role in who we become, and how we choose to respond to them will inevitably end up influencing our identity. This season communicates the importance of being true to yourself, and asserting your own identity through doing what you believe to be right, rather than what other people expect of you. An important message for anyone, but especially for a younger audience who may be struggling with discovering themselves and their place in the world. Finally, we move on to Season 3, which follows young adults Grace and Simon, leaders of a cult-like group called the Apex, who have come to mistakenly believe that the point of the train is to actually increase their number. Since a number goes down as one begins to resolve their innermost problems, the Apex tend to increase it by not only avoiding their issues, but also compounding them and making them worse, though they don't necessarily realize that that's the case. The belief system that they have created states that the train exists for their amusement, therefore giving them dominion and superiority over it and its denizens, who they further dehumanize by referring to as nulls. This mentality causes them to act in selfish and destructive ways that are not conducive to growth, though they aren't being intentionally malicious by doing so, as their actions are wholly justified in their mind by their core beliefs. During this season, Grace and Simon become separated from the Apex and meet a bright and optimistic young girl named Hazel and her gorilla companion Tuba. As the four travel the train together, Grace and Simon become faced with the reality that their long-held beliefs may not be true, and must choose whether to accept a new way of thinking or reject it and succumb to their own mistakes. This season touches on multiple themes, including grief, trauma, and the need to find a place where you belong. But its primary message is undoubtedly that of recognizing and accepting your own mistakes. It shows that being wrong in of itself does not make someone a bad person, and that by opening yourself up to new ways of thinking, you can grow and change. But it also acknowledges the reality that mistakes can have consequences that harm others, and that by refusing to accept those mistakes, you can close yourself off from developing as a person. In a world that can often feel so divided and judgmental, I think it's especially important both to keep ourselves open to recognizing our own mistakes and to be sympathetic to those who are in the process of doing so. As a whole, the main focus of Infinity Train is that of the utter necessity of confronting your problems, a theme it expands upon through each season's characters, setting, and plot. This theme is only further focused through not only its short episodes and seasons, which do not allow for any superfluous or extraneous writing, but also its grounded and relatively realistic art style. While I generally prefer the aesthetics of more stylized character and background designs, the ones utilized in Infinity Train help to convey the more serious tone and messages it seeks to deliver. It even emulates the dust particles that show up on old films, communicating a sort of found footage look that grounds the series even further. In conclusion, it's my opinion that Infinity Train expertly communicates serious and important themes to its audience. In its refusal to shy away from mature concepts, it avoids talking down to its younger demographic, respecting them and giving them something both narratively entertaining and thematically poignant. Its unique setting allows for a wide variety of stories, characters, and ideas to be explored, and its nature as a short-form anthology-style series keeps its writing highly focused. It's important because it represents an underutilized kind of animated series that can effectively communicate its ideas without them getting lost in an ocean of either loosely connected or overly extensive episodes. If you haven't yet watched the series, I hope this video convinced you to check it out, and if you have, I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts. So yeah, with all that said, I'd love to hear what you all think. Let me know in the comments section what you thought about this series, and if you noticed any themes I didn't talk about. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to leave a like, and subscribe if you want to see more videos similar to this. It would help out a lot and I'd really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for watching, stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all later.